Today I'm going to be breaking down easily one of the most controversial topics that I have seen in my comments all year, shooting centers versus inside centers. And I'm skipping the intro, we are getting right into this one, so go down there, drop a like, drop a sub, turn the notifications on for me. Now I'm going to preface this with there is a lot of different kinds of shooting centers and inside centers. I will be basing my opinion off of what I've played on this year. I have a ton of builds and a few different types of each inside and shooting centers. I will be breaking that all down for you, starting out with shooting centers. As you can see, I got some shooting center gameplay in the background here. I'm going to start out with some pros on the shooting center. This one is a 7-foot center, but I also have a 6'7" popper that I can use in the park. So use that for reference. Those are the two builds I'll be basing this off of mostly. But some of the benefits that start out with this right away is that you can space the floor. Obviously, inside centers cannot space the floor. Being able to space the floor allows you to play with a little bit worse people because you're not relying on them to score constantly. If you're a solo player or something like that, this might be the way to go for you. But also, another major pro to having a build like this is you have to make the other center guard you. So if you are able to shoot consistently on a taller build like this, the other center has to come out of the paint. They have to play real defense and they can't just sit in the paint and leave you open all game, which opens up a lot of lanes for your teammates no matter who you're playing with. So the shooting center is very, very good in that aspect. Another pro I think of when I'm thinking about shooting centers or poppers or 6'7" mostly is what I'm talking about, is that in the park they are much better at perimeter defense. You're much faster, you can play on guards better, you can switch off of stuff with your guard better. And even though 6'7", the shooting is a lot more consistent because the ratings are a little bit higher, the jump shots are a little bit better. So I would mark that as a pro for this shooting center type of build. Because if you're 6'7", 6'8", you're honestly going to be able to play a lot better defense than the 7-foot inside, even if the defensive stats are higher. But that perimeter defense is going to be crazy because of your speed. I see a lot of comp people, everybody in wagers or in this stage, a lot of them are using those 6'7", 6'8" builds on the threes. A lot of times on the twos, it's still those 7-foot insides dominating or the 7-foot poppers, but the 6'7" bring a major benefit in the shooting category as well as the speed and defense category. So now on to some of the cons or downsides of this build, of the shooting center build. Honestly, being able to or having to invest in shooting attributes is pretty expensive. So a lot of times you're gonna be lacking in playmaking or defense or a little bit of rebounding, whatever you have to sacrifice to be able to get your shooting up. In my scenario, I had to sacrifice my defensive rebound down to an 80, and I had to sacrifice my pass accuracy down to an 87 to be able to have an 85 mid-range and a 78 3. But on my insides, I'm able to have those stats higher, like we'll talk about in a little bit. But that is a major downside because playmaking is a big piece of being a good center, as well as having as high of rebound as possible, especially in 2K25. If you guys have played this, you know you need as high of rebounding as possible because every 7-foot inside is running them with a 99 offensive and 99 defensive rebound to go along with 99 strength. Honestly, you have to be able to compete with that or you're just going to get out rebounded. You're going to get horsed constantly. That is a major downside that I have noticed with these shooting center builds because honestly, on my shooting center build, I get horsed on the defensive rebounds a lot. I know I have an 80, but I have a 99 offensive rebound with Legend Rebound Chaser, and it helps, but it also does not help me out rebound big inside centers that have 99 of both. Another thing people don't talk about enough is tendencies. It's not something you can see in the game, but it's been in the game for a lot of years. Honestly, if you have tendencies on an inside center, you're bound to get more rebounds, even if you have the same exact stats as a shooting center. So as soon as you start upgrading shooting on your center build, rebounding tendencies go down. Believe it or not, a lot of creators, a lot of people know that play the game. As soon as you start making shooting builds, those rebound odds go down. It's just how it is. So even if you have a 99 offensive, 99 defensive, and 99 strength, same as an inside center, if you have shooting, that inside center is more likely to get the rebound, believe it or not. It's been the same thing with lockdowns. People have done that for years. There's been a tendency glitch. I'm not going to talk about that, but there has been a tendency glitch in the past with lockdowns. It's just a thing. It happens, and you have to know about that when you're going to make a shooting center. We'll summarize this all at the end, but that is going to do it for the shooting center for now. Let's get into this inside center talk. So just like shooting centers, there's a lot of different types of inside centers you can have. I have played on a 7-foot inside and a 6'9" inside with a super high vertical. So I'll be breaking it down mainly off of those two builds. And just for reference, that is 99 offensive rebound, 99 defensive rebound, and 99 strength. The 7-footer has about an 80 or an 81 vertical, and the 6'9" has a 90 vertical. So starting out with a big pro on this build, like I was just talking about the tendency tendencies. So whereas the shooting centers have lower tendencies to get the rebound, since we don't have shooting, we have much higher tendencies to get the rebound. So if we are going against a shooting center, most of the time, I'd say about 90% of the time, I am out rebounding him in the paint. And that is not an exaggeration. I swear I have not got out rebounded by shooting centers very often at all this year, and I have played a ton on these builds. There's a reason this is the meta to bring it to the twos, because you're just going to out rebound everybody. And also going into that, another pro, or maybe it's a con for the shooting centers, but a pro for the inside centers is that shooting is a little bit inconsistent, especially on these taller builds. I guess I should have mentioned that a little bit earlier, but since it is so inconsistent, if you play against somebody that's not a great shooter, you can just sit paint on them. They're going to miss more times than not, and you're just going to get free possessions right back. I don't love that it's that way, but honestly, if you're shooting center and you're not very good at shooting, you're going to get called out pretty consistently, especially if the other person knows that you're not good at shooting, because you're just going to get left wide open. And if you can't hit, your team is just going to get mad at you, and you're going to end up having to try to play like an inside center anyways with worse stats. Well, as far as the rebounding goes, obviously better, but into the playmaking even, I have like a 97 pass accuracy on this inside center build specifically, which is something I just can't do when I need to upgrade the shooting stats as well, because it's just too expensive to get everything. But having that 97 pass accuracy, I can max +1 to legend dimer. I'm making full court passes super easily, super consistently, and making my teammates just make more shots, which helps the team overall. I didn't mention it earlier, but both of my shooting center and inside center both have about a 90 standing dunk. That's about the best thing for the finishing. 84 close shot. I didn't bring up finishing because both of my builds have pretty similar finishing, so I don't find that to be a major difference between either of them. I know some people make them with lower finishing on one or the other, but mine personally, I don't find a major difference when it comes to finishing. But along with having higher playmaking stats, better rebounding, we also get better defensive stats, because that, like I said, that shooting stuff is just expensive. So being able to upgrade our defense higher, be able to get a 60 steal to get the lane steals here and there, a little bit of perimeter to be able to get a contest, higher block, higher interior, it definitely helps and just makes you way more of a beast when it comes to stuff happening in the paint. Now, I do love these inside center builds, so it's hard for me to say some cons about it, but when it comes to the cons, I can definitely say not being able to shoot is tough in situations, not all the time, because a lot of times you don't need to, and I will stand by that. You don't have to be able to shoot this year. You just need to have teammates that can score. I talked about that in the shooting center build or version as well, but you have to have teammates that can score with an inside center, or at least create space for you to be able to score. They need to be able to come off a screen and hit a shot or make the right read, because you can't, you're not going to go out here and score every single point on an inside center. That's just not how it is. You'll get your rolls, you'll get your dunks, but they need to be able to come off a screen, hit a fade, hit a jump shot, something. So it is a little bit harder in that aspect, because your teammates have to have half a brain, know kind of what they're doing to be able to make this super, super dominant build like it really can be. That being said, playing with the teammate that has half a brain or kind of knows what they're doing really makes this build shine, shows how dominant it really is, because you set gigantic screens. Anytime that guard misses, you are able to go get the rebound over pretty much anybody, unless you're playing against another inside center. Now, to kind of summarize this, the biggest benefits of having a shooting center is you are able to space the floor. You don't have to rely on others to score quite as much. And if you go a little bit shorter, you can play much better perimeter defense in comp situations. And it's just a little bit more viable to play with anybody, any kind of teammate. But you are sacrificing rebounding, as well as some other stats like the playmaking a little bit and the defense a little bit. So I would say those are the cons, giving up those stats to have the higher shooting, the floor spacing, and the being able to play with anybody, the versatility. As far as the inside, the biggest benefits to me are being able to out-rebound anybody you are playing against, feeling extremely dominant in the paint anytime there's anything going on down there. A lot of times on a lot of these inside builds, you have a higher strength, which I'd also classify as a benefit, because on a center build, you want as high of strength as you can possibly get. Another benefit is just having those higher stats in general, the higher playmaking, the higher defense. Like I said, the finishing is about the same on my build specifically, but you have a higher stats overall, in my opinion, and on my builds. But some of the cons come in when people think you're just standing in the paint, clogging everything up. It honestly depends on the teammates. You have to rely on them a little bit more, which is the biggest con in my opinion. But if you make that 6'9" center, you can also have the high vertical and the speed to play a little bit better perimeter defense. You could also bring that to comp situations, but that is another con. You can't really go 6'7" or 6'8" on an inside and be viable in all the situations. So that is my summary. I personally am rocking with the inside center. I still think it's better in my opinion. Maybe it's who I play with, maybe it's how I play, but I love my inside inside center, and a lot of teammates that play with me love that I'm grabbing 30 rebounds a game and helping them out. But I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments what builds you're rocking with, what center type, if you're shooting center, if you're an inside center, what you prefer or what you think I missed in this video. This one took a little bit to put together, so go down there, drop a like, drop a sub, turn the notifications on your way out. We're still going crazy all through 2K25 and into 2K26, which is coming up right around the corner. But without further ado, that'll do it for this one, and I will catch you in the next one.